Welcome to another episode of Go Team Score Points, a podcast for those who want to distract themselves from the news for 30 to 45 minutes and learn about the NBA instead. Each episode focuses on one NBA game from the week. An NBA beginner Irish, that's me, and longtime NBA fan Sam.
That's me.
Learn more about the NBA games, people, and current events. In today's show, we talk about the Nuggets Trailblazers game, and Anthony is back to give us his perspective on a very sad season for the Sixers and his theory that we are at peak NBA. It's our best episode yet.
Yeah, it is. Do we get reviews?
Well, we got feedback on one of the YouTube shorts. The would you rather be Bronny James or Alex Reese?
Yeah, person came in pretty strong with their opinions on.
And agreed with you.
They did.
At Zerglofire commented, Alex Reese. Anybody who says different is too weak to actually walk the path of success. That's why they'd rather be Bronny, because daddy did it for him. One can confidently say he got to where he was because of himself. The other can only question if he deserves what he has. That's a good point. And that's kind of what you said. This kind of goes into current events because Bronny had a very good week this week.
Yeah, he did.
So I would wonder if in any kind of nepotism, like, is there always a question of like, did I do this on my own? Or like, is it always kind of running in the background? Like, do you ever prove it to yourself that you did it on your own? I don't know. But I did see that Bronny had like a great game. He got like 35 points in a G League game.
Okay.
And I texted it to August and I was like, wow, look at this. And he was like, yeah, he's really good.
Yeah. August made me think a little bit when he said that he's like, he feels like he's having kind of a normal season for a 55th draft pick.
Yeah.
So I don't disagree. Okay.
But I think trick is like what 55th draft picks are getting any time playing
exactly
for the Lakers.
Exactly. Good question. I do, in terms of like day to day, Bronny's working as hard as anyone.
Yeah.
Right? Like I was just thinking about like what is it? Maybe he has those questions day to day, and it feels. I would guess that it would show up in him as a successful athlete as like a chip on his shoulder. It's like something to prove. No one thinks I belong here. I'm going to prove everyone wrong, which is fine, kind of understandable, and a good sense of motivation. I think a lot of NBA players like have something like that. People told me I would never get here. People told me it was too slow, too small, too whatever. Yeah. So I bet his motivation is similar in that sense. It is hard to like, I think like pretty patently, he just like wouldn't be there.
Right.
If he was, you know what I mean? Which seems like a very just kind of basic fact. He wouldn't be there if he wasn't LeBron James' kid. Now that he's there, I don't know. We'll see what he does with it.
Yeah. And I'm sure he is working hard.
Yeah.
But everyone there is working really hard. There's something additional that happens when you're in the NBA.
I wonder what he would say, like about, if you gave him truth serum about like, what is this like for you? And not even like, do you deserve to be here? But like, how do you feel about being here?
Right. And it's this like bigger discussion of nepotism and like how aware, like, I'm not sure it's hard to say if anybody is aware of it because I think people inherently think like, no, I'm working really hard. I deserve this. LeBron James knows every single coach and he could coach.
Yep. The Lakers organization was worth it to them to draft Bronny to keep him happy.
Right.
To keep LeBron happy there. And who knows what would have happened if it said, no, we're not going to do that. I always thought the Celtics should have drafted him. Like they had bad picks anyway.
Yeah.
Just to spite the Lakers.
Oh.
And be like, all right, like what's he worth to you? The Celtics news, Tatum twisted his ankle.
Womp, womp.
Womp womp. It doesn't sound too bad. I bet they're going to be real cautious with him. Playoff seedings aren't really. It doesn't seem too bad. Damian Lillard, he plays for the Bucks indefinitely with blood clots.
Oh no!
Yeah,
just like Wemby.
Oh,
gosh, it's so scary.
Made me wonder a little bit. Two people isn't like a trend.
No, but Hannah was. I think it was Hannah. It was either Hannah or August.
Yeah,
was telling me like this is a concern for people who are very, very tall.
Oh, is that what it is?
It's common. Yeah.
Interesting. I think Damian Lillard's like not. He's like 6'3". He's not. He's not enormous like Wemby or Damian Lillard's not super tall like Wemby or Chris Bosh or any of these, but I was sad to read it and it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's scary.
Yeah, talk about the game a little bit.
Okay, so I tried to watch the Nuggets Trailblazers game.
Yeah.
So I watched a tiny part of the game. They played in Portland. I watched the Trailblazers feed because the Denver feed was Katie Wingy and Chris Marlowe, and I just didn't feel like watching them. And I wanted to see like who else could I watch? So it was Kevin Calabro and Lamar Hurd. They were fine, but I only watched like half of one quarter.
Okay.
Jokic was out with an ankle injury. He missed a few games.
Yeah. They lost those games.
It's pretty bad that they lose when he's not playing.
I mean, it makes sense. He's pretty good. And their team is built for him.
Yeah.
But I hear you.
So in quarter one, I noticed that the Nuggets coaches were wearing the black quarter zips. which is my favorite. And the Trailblazers coach is Chauncy Billips. Do you know him?
Yeah, sure.
You know why I know him?
No.
We went to the same college.
Colorado College. State.
Close, but no.
State.
No.
Illinois.
No, the University of Colorado.
University of Colorado. What's the mascot there?
The Buffaloes.
The Buffaloes.
The Buffalo's name is Ralphie.
Okay. I heckled Chauncy Billips once and told him to shave his mustache. Yeah.
Okay, first of all, I don't disagree with that.
Yeah. Does he still have one? Did you notice?
No.
He listened.
Wow.
It worked.
Changing lives.
Yeah, it worked.
Where were you when you saw him?
So do you remember, we talked, you asked me in a Would You Rather game whether I would want to go to this Pistons game where the Celtics lost to the Pistons by like 60 points.
Yeah.
Worst loss in franchise history.
Yeah.
That game, we were in the back row of maybe the Fleet Center at that point, whatever the stadium in Boston was. And then my girlfriend's dad felt so bad that our tickets were that bad that he got us tickets to another game, which also happened to be against the Pistons. But these tickets were like close, like fourth or fifth row.
What? Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
Someone felt bad that they gave you tickets to an NBA game.
Yep.
And they weren't good enough.
Yeah.
Wow.
I made a pretty big stake about it. No, I'm kidding. No, I don't know what. Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know how that came about. Anyway, he got us more tickets. Super nice. And these tickets were way better, and the seats were really close. It was close as I've ever been at a game. And so I yelled at him to shave his mustache during that game.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I'm glad he listened. So like you were close enough to give him advice.
Yeah. It was polite, well-grounded, important advice.
Yeah.
And he listened. Okay.
I did look up one player though.
Oh, fun.
I watched so little of the game.
Yeah.
I don't have anything that the announcer said, except dinner time.
Yeah.
Do you know what that is?
Just inferring. I don't know that specific. James Harden, the beard, made it kind of famous. One of his celebration gestures is this, and like it's feeding time.
Okay.
It's time for me to feast on this defender.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I would imagine that kind of any like eating reference would kind of be harkening back to let him eat, let him feast on this guy.
Okay.
Which kind of made sense with the video. It looked like what they were saying was there was a mismatch, meaning like the defensive player was not well suited to guard this offensive guy, and that guy got to the hoop pretty easily on that video. So that's what I think that means.
It's dinner time.
It's dinner time.
Great. Okay, so I looked up a player on the team because the name is so interesting.
Great.
His name is Scoot Henderson. His real name is Sterling.
Okay.
But he's called Scoot because when he was a baby, he would like scoot around.
Wow.
And that stuck since he was a baby.
Wow.
Okay, let me tell you about this guy. He's from Georgia. He is the second youngest of 7.
Okay.
And he was really good at playing basketball in high school. And he was so good that he didn't even do his senior year. He graduated early to sign a contract with the G League. He started playing for the G League when he was 17.
Whoa.
Yeah, he's the youngest player ever to sign with the G League. And then what's interesting, like one of the many things is like he is, and I bet like all these kids these days who are now in the NBA, they probably have like a list of things that they want to do. So in 2022, he signed a multi-year endorsement deal with Puma.
Okay.
He also trademarked his name and his motto is overly determined to dominate. In the same year as those things, he launched his own boys and girls amateur athletic union programs. That sounds good.
Okay.
And this was the most interesting part to me because I'm like just reading Wikipedia. It says starred in Shooting Stars. Anyway, I was like, wait, I've seen this movie.
Oh,
I watched this movie like 3 weeks ago because August had it on.
Yeah.
And I just was like sitting next to him. And then I got so into it.
Yeah.
And it was like such a good movie about LeBron James's high school basketball career. Oh, it's really good.
Cool.
You could probably watch it with your kids. Like it was just what I think is particularly interesting is I thought that the people in the movie were actors and they like brought in like some basketball playing extras for some whatever.
Yeah.
But it was this guy who's a basketball player.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
Happened to be a good actor.
Yeah.
Fun.
So that's all I have about the game because I just didn't do it. But that's okay. I have a question. There was either talk or it was in the Wikipedia about what is the Summer League?
Yeah, so it's a short-ish tournament in Las Vegas in the summer, like a 2 or 3 week with like NBA teams, but the headlining players don't go there. So it's a little maybe somewhere like between the G League and the NBA.
Okay.
Like these are players who are going to make rosters, but they're kind of at the end of the bench.
Okay.
And they get a chance to like compete and shine and maybe make an impression on their team.
So it's like all-star weekend, but not all-stars.
Yeah, for the end of the bench.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not bad. I was surprised to hear you say that Scoot signed that young.
Yeah.
Because I think to sign in the NBA, I think you might have to be 19. I think there's like an age.
Well, maybe that's why he signed with the G League.
Yeah, totally.
Because he didn't play. He played for the G League. He didn't play for the NBA until like 2 years ago. So that would line up.
Did these announcers make an impression on you at all?
I barely watched it.
Barely watched. Okay.
Okay. Introduction again. Anthony is back. Anthony is our friend who is a longtime 76ers fan. You're here to talk to us about the Sixers season and tell us about peak NBA. These are two things we want to hear for sure. And then we'll see what else we get into.
Thank you. And if I can also add, a longtime fan of the Go Team Score Points podcast.
Yes.
Which I'm much more excited to be a fan of these days than the Sixers.
Well, thank you.
Actually, I know what I want to ask you, Anthony. So like, can you give us the case for them losing? What's going on with them in terms of like this season?
So one of the fun things about the NBA, even more so than the NFL and baseball, I think in the US, and I was just thinking about this the other day, I think it's a little bit like soccer in Europe. So leagues in Europe, you have teams trying to win it all. You also have teams trying not to come in worst. So if you're a fan, there are lots of reasons to get excited, okay? Either you're cheering for your team to try to win it all, and then if your team's struggling at the bottom, you're cheering and you're following because the finish of the season is still really exciting. Most of our American sports, we don't have relegation. And that's because you don't want your team to get dropped down to the next division if your team is at the bottom. So once your team doesn't have a chance to win it all, it can be easy to kind of tune things out. So in the NBA, and part of the process was losing as much as possible to get high draft picks. This word tanking has become a thing, and the Sixers probably identify it more than anybody else. And Sixers fans, at some point a few weeks ago, when we decided that there's no chance we're going to win, now the best thing we can do is lose to get the best draft pick. Now we started cheering for the Sixers to lose and getting mad when they win. So now there's something still to get excited. It's not the exact same as European soccer because there's not relegation, but it's that end of season excitement, even though your team has no chance of winning anything. In our case, it's now can we lose as much as possible to get a good draft pick. And here we are in the process all over again.
And then they're in a little bit of a weird spot with their pick, right?
Yeah. So the other thing is one of these new innovations in recent years, it was often a case where you trade a player for a player. Makes sense. Trade a player for a player and a draft pick, as the Sixers did when in addition to giving you Jason Tatum, we decided to give you even more for somebody who didn't know how to play basketball, which why not? Now, another added dimension to trades can be a pick swap. So I will allow you to give me, let's say 2 years from now, you can change your first pick with mine. So if mine is a better one than yours, you can swap it. But then they put all these rights around them. So right now, the Sixers have a top 6 protected pick that is owned by the Oklahoma City basketball team, which is arguably the best basketball team this season. So if the Sixers come in 7th or better, Oklahoma City gets that pick. Only if the Sixers come in the 6 worst picks do they get to keep it. So there's added pressure to perform poorly now, not only to try to get a good pick, but even just to keep the pick. Because if it's not in the top 6, they have to give it over to a team that doesn't need it.
This draft there's like a whole layer to that as well, because Oklahoma City, not only are they one of the best teams in the league right now, but they have like, they call it draft capital. They have like 1 million picks over the next few years saved up.
Well, can I tell you a little story too about this OKC pick?
Yes.
So at some point in this, the kind of the coming up out of the process era, when Embiid's looking good and we're trying to build a better team around him, whoever the management was at the time decided it'd be a really good idea to get Al Horford to come and play for the Sixers. And he had been with Boston. He was up for a new contract. The Sixers outbid Boston, and they signed Al Horford as a free agent. And they thought, wow, it'd be great to have this big guy play with another big guy, until they realized they both basically do the exact same thing. And so when they're on the court at the same time, all they did was like literally bump into each other and trip over each other. But they had to pay Horford a bunch of money to get him. So to get rid of Horford and his huge contract to free up money to then spend on somebody else, they sent Horford to Oklahoma City and gave Oklahoma City this pick and I think some other stuff. So they would take Horford. So we gave Oklahoma City a really good player because then he ended up back on the Celtics once again. And as you know, Sam, he's been instrumental in this run. So we let you guys have Horford back, and to make our team worse briefly for a while and then stop that worseness, we gave Oklahoma this pick, which might become theirs if it comes in 7th this year.
I did not make that connection that this was related to Al Horford. I don't know if I'm supposed to be objective. I love this so much.
I mean, it's just, you literally, it's like, you look under any stone and you find a really dumb mistake that the Sixers have made.
Evan Turner was there for a while, right?
He was.
And I heard him talk about how, just like draft, he was good. He was he was a really good player, but not like a franchise kind of player. He could have been, I don't know what, the fourth or fifth best player on a championship team level guy. He was really good. But he talked about how them drafting him like sort of submarined his whole career because he wasn't supposed to be good there. Like their job was not to win. And so he wasn't able to do everything he could do as a player, but also like, I don't know, people can argue about it, but like there are habits involved in winning. And if your job is to lose for 6 seasons in a row, like how do you like, okay, I guess now we're just gonna win. I don't know. It's not easy to do.
No. I mean, you've heard the phrase heat culture, that, when you go to the Miami Heat, you're just expected to be on your best behavior and always work your butt off and always play defense and always buy into the team concept. You look at the successful teams and you can see and you can feel there's a culture there. It's a real thing. Yeah. And people are realizing, oh, right, the stats aren't enough. You have to have a good culture.
Yeah. So the difference to me, and I don't follow them as closely as you do, but that signing of Paul George, they were like, okay, like we are in. Like we still have some like money to spend. We've got some moves to make, and that in the last 2 or 3 seasons, and they were good and they were competitive. And Embiid, when he was right, was incredible. And then the signing of Paul George was like, this is it. We are in. Yeah. Like if everyone's right, if everyone's healthy, we can compete with the Celtics, we can compete with the Thunder, the Cavs, all these teams. And it just, boy, the wheels came off early and quick.
Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah. It was like the last few years were like going around your house, finding all the loose change and all the money and getting all the money your friends owe you back. And then this year was, all right, we're going to the casino and we're going all in on one hand. Yeah. Right. We've scrimped and saved and we've shuffled things around and we begged and borrowed. Now we're all in. Yeah.
And it's weird, but the flip side of all this is if they do keep that pick, let's say they pick 5th, like this year's draft is supposed to be really, really good. Cooper Flagg is obviously like a franchise kind of guy, but the 5-6 guys right behind him are the type of player that, could be the second best player on a championship team, like at very best, but like a rotation guy on a really good team. And so they've got Maxey under contract for a long time. So they've got Maxey, they've got Jared McCain, and let's say they get a good player in this year's draft. It's like having 3 players under 25, or I don't know how old Maxey is, but 3 young players who are really, really good. Is like they're going to be competitive, and it's a weird spot, right? Because if Paul George isn't right, if Embiid's not right, then like there seems like there's a ceiling with giving that much money to those guys. Anyway, there's a chance they'll have a young core that's really strong, but also be in kind of a weird spot.
And no money to spend on the rest of their team if this money's just sunk. It's like, let's take an F1 driver, but let's put him in a Toyota, he'll be competitive because he's a good driver, but he can only drive so fast. Right.
Those poor 4-cylinder Sixers.
Oh man, I would gladly take 4-cylinder these days. I feel like it's about half at the moment.
Yeah, one's popping or misfiring.
Yeah.
So Anthony, I have some questions about this.
Sure.
And mostly, like my biggest question that I don't understand is, and maybe I asked this last time you were on, but like, how do you thread that needle of like, we're going to lose, but we're not throwing the game? Because in the last week I watched the Sixers game, there were 11 people out with injuries and they had to like scramble to put together. They should make a movie about this someday, like how they were like probably like on the phone with people like, hey, what are you doing tonight?
Yeah.
Can you come up? And Alex Reese was like, finally, my time to shine.
Yeah.
And he got out there, laced up his shoes. So like, how do they not win when maybe they might want to win sometimes?
Yeah.
What is the deal?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. You get the Alex Reeses of the world, and of course, those guys are playing super hard, right? They got this brief chance, to show something to somebody. So they're not going to try to lose. But, the way that the league works is the talent level is so high, even on bad teams, that if you're putting a bunch of Alex Reeses out there, especially who haven't had a chance to really play with each other much or learn the system well, they can only go so far with their hustle and, and a bit of scrap and a little bit of talent. So it's actually pretty easy to lose a lot when you have a team full of guys that you just got from, the barbershop or the last flight from Luxembourg.
Okay, so yes, but that was just last week's game. Like before that, they're still trying to lose. Their goal is to lose. So how do you approach a game and you're like, guys, we're going to lose this one, but still we're playing, like we're participating, but just like, don't give it your all?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know how that conversation goes. I don't know that I've ever read anybody talking specifically about what that conversation looks like in the locker room or in the huddle. But My guess is it's more of we want, hey, let's all play our best. Let's work on developing these skills. Let's just see if we can, that it's a bit maybe more subtle, that you're not pushing guys to go for it, no matter what, to win. And more than anything, it is the player moves, right? That the players who are playing see the decisions that the management is making about who they're playing, who they're not playing, who they're resting, who they're signing, right? Because there's probably guys better than Alex Reese that they could have signed or traded for, but they're okay taking these guys who they think aren't probably going to be that great. So I think that's probably the biggest way that the team is informed about that they're going to lose, is by seeing who they bring in and who they choose not to bring in.
Do you think sometimes, like during halftime, they're like, hey guys, we're having a pizza party in the locker room. Come and eat. How many pieces can you eat in this 5-minute break? And then when they get back out there, they're like, oh, I can't run. Stuffed crust pizza. I bet that's what they should do.
Can't say no to pizza. You can't say.
I love all the innovation that comes up on this pod. Someone's got to be sending these ideas to Adam Silver. What was the previous one? The running clock?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And calling a free throw what it is, a free throw, that you throw a free throw.
Yeah. Or name it a free shot, but you can't have both.
Pick one. Yeah.
And I always wonder about that dynamic. It's Nick Nurse, right?
Yep.
Is he gone at the end of this year? And if so, what does he care if they lose a lot of games?
Right.
Yeah.
In fact, if he's gone and he's going to coach somewhere else, there's like a world where he would actually want them to be winning games, so they wouldn't be as good next year. There's a lot of dynamics at play, and who knows if anyone's being honest with Nick Nurse about what his job is going to be next year. There's a ton of dynamics. I think the bottom line is, like, you put bad players on the court.
Yeah.
And find a way to lose.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
Sorry, Sam. If you were going to order pizzas for the team at halftime to get them to tank, what toppings do you think would be the most tankable toppings?
Listen, I think you got to go for popular, so they eat it and they're like, this is so good. And I think you got to go for indigestion. So that combination is jalapenos, spicy sausage, and spicy pepperoni. I don't know what that pizza is called. And then I would also definitely go with like a stuffed crust pizza. Let's call it the tank. Man, you're right. We have so many ideas on this.
So much innovation.
Someone should tell Domino's to sponsor us.
Yeah.
On our podcast.
Come for the basketball, stay for the innovation.
We should trademark that as our motto. Okay. So Anthony, you are here to talk to us about the Sixers, but also we want to hear about this theory you have of how we were at peak NBA. Please tell us what this is about.
Yeah. So it started with thinking about all this Sixers money that is committed that I talked about before, right? $150+ million for several years. Some of that money is going to go, or maybe a lot of it's going to go to guys who don't even play. And Sixers aren't the only team in that kind of situation. So something is bubbling up. And I was living in San Francisco in 1990 at the peak of the dot-com bubble. And I was still there when the bubble burst. And so a lot of the things I've been seeing in the NBA these days remind me of the things that I saw at that time living in San Francisco. And there's similar kinds of things. If you hear people go back and talk about the tulip bubble, the tulip craze, Holland, I want to say 1600s maybe, the stock market craze. JP Morgan saying, when your shoe shine boys giving you stock tips, that's when it's time to get out, right? We have these examples of bubbles in history, and they oftentimes play out in similar ways. So here's my 6 reasons why we're in an NBA bubble. So in the 99 dot-com boom, a lot of companies paid attention and promoted the wrong thing. So instead about talking about having a great product or how profitable they were, the keyword was eyeballs. Let's attract lots of eyeballs to our website, because if we just do that, well, everything will work out, right? And it was totally the wrong metric. Not surprisingly, a lot of those companies went bust. In the NBA these days, the NBA is promoting and talking about the wrong stuff. Let me give you one great example. Bronny, arguably one of the worst players in the NBA. He's not even fully in the NBA. He plays in the G League as well. And yet he gets talked about more than most of the best players in the NBA. I don't know if it's intentional or not in terms of they're worried about the quality or other issues going on. But when you're drawing everyone's attention to something that isn't actually really high quality, again, we care about eyeballs. What about profit? Oh, we'll figure that out. We really care about Bronny. Will he ever actually play in the NBA? Oh, well, that's not to be bothered about talking about now. So when you're focused on the wrong thing as a company, what you're putting out there, that's a sign you're in a bubble. Sign number 2, ridiculous spending of money because you think something's going to only go up and up and up. And this also led to the bubble of the housing crisis of 2008, right? People kept buying more homes and buying more homes because the price of housing never goes down. In 1999, people just kept investing in stocks and investing in stocks and investing in stocks because the price is never going to go down. Here we are in the NBA, people investing in players and giving out these big contracts and giving out bigger contracts and more contracts to older and older players. The Phoenix Suns are also saddled with around $150 million for Kevin Durant and Devin Booker and Bradley Beal. The Sixers are stuck with what they're stuck with. The Mavs now with Kyrie and Anthony Davis, both injured or in a history of injury. More and more teams are finding themselves throwing more money at players and older players because they think, it's just the amount that they're going to have is just going to keep increasing. So you can just throw money around. I think that's another sign that we're in a bubble. A third reason why I think we're in a bubble, when the fans themselves don't actually really care about the product and aren't using it in the way that the company wants. So in 1999, when a lot of websites were trying to get new customers, they would offer these free trials. Join now and you'll get your first $50 off. And it wasn't even like spend 50, get 50. It was just, we'll give you $50 worth of free stuff. So a friend of mine challenged me. We challenged kind of a competition who could do all their Christmas shopping for free online that December of 99. I racked up around $300 or $400 in Christmas gifts, all for free, just by signing up for these free trials. Towels, candles, aromatherapy balls, all sorts of stuff I don't even remember. But I wasn't going to go back and actually buy anything from these websites, these companies. I wasn't actually interested. I was just taking what I wanted and moving on. That's the fan experience these days. How many people, we've talked about it, how many other people are talking about people watch the NBA just by way of clips on YouTube, right? Young people aren't going to be spending money to pay for a league pass because they're just going to watch YouTube clips. They're not going to go to a game and spend a lot of money there. Why? Well, you can just watch the clips being pushed at you from TikTok. So even that the consumers aren't consuming the game as it's meant to be, as it's been put out there, they're just taking the little bits and pieces and for free. And that usually is a sign that things aren't going well. Number 4, when I was living in San Francisco, to try to get attention for websites, companies do these big, crazy launch parties, famous musicians, lots of food. You go out just about any night you wanted for a stretch there, free food and drink. And people talked about the food and drink. They didn't talk about the company at all. Recently, LeBron got into a fight with Stephen A. Smith at a game. I have no idea who won that game. I don't know who played well in that game. I don't even know who was playing in that game. Yeah. But I know that LeBron and Stephen A. Smith got into it that game. I don't know anybody who played well that whole night in the NBA. I just know that LeBron and Stephen A. got into it that night. And my guess is there's a lot of people in a similar situation. So when companies are trying to dazzle you with certain things, again, that may be a sign that don't look under the hood because what's there isn't very high quality, a sign that there's a bubble about to burst. Number 5 that I gave to you guys last time. Say what you want about Mark Cuban, but he has been a very savvy investor. So he started an internet company and he sold it to Yahoo for $5.7 billion in 1999. The bubble burst in March of 2000. So Cuban, unlike a lot of other people, he got out before the bubble burst and made a whole lot of money, some of which allowed him to buy the Mavericks and build them into a very successful franchise, including an NBA championship. Well, it caught a lot of people's attention when 2 years ago in 2023, he sold, and I don't know if it was all or a lot of his share in the Mavs for $3.5 billion, far, far, far more than he paid when he first bought them. So he made a huge amount of money off it. And NBA teams generally aren't something that have a high turnover in terms of being sold, right? When you've got it, not only do they tend to be a good investment, but they're psychological good investment in that you feel really important. You're big in town and you can go anywhere you want in the stadium and players and people come. So not many people who have them, especially when they're rather young, like Cuban still is. It was kind of odd that he was selling off the Mavs. But again, you look back to 1999, maybe he knew something everybody else didn't know because he got out and sold before the bubble burst. Cuban selling now, maybe that's also a sign that the bubble is going to burst because he pulled it off once again, and maybe he's pulling it off now. Bonus one for you, Sam, based on the recent pod. Number 6 reason that the NBA is in a bubble that's about ready to burst. When valuations of companies, or in this case, NBA organizations, don't make sense anymore. And valuation ultimately is what somebody else pays for it. Okay. Sam, do you remember what the sale price was for the Celtics recently?
$6.1 billion.
$6.1 billion. Irish, do you know what the sale price was for the Washington Commanders when they sold? Do you have any idea what their sale price was?
$500,000.
Really close. So close. $6.05 billion. Do you know why the Celtics sale price was 6.1 billion? So that it would set the new record for what somebody would pay to buy a pro sports franchise.
What an honor.
So the valuation has nothing to do with the actual business fundamentals. Somebody just decided, we'll only sell to you if you beat the previous price. And that's how we're going to choose to value our business. And somebody else came in and said, well, if that's what it takes, sure, I'll throw that money at it. Are the Celtics actually worth 6.1 billion? Who knows? But it seems odd that they were purchased for 0.05 billion more than the Commanders were. And when organizations and companies are basing their valuations not on the actual business fundamentals, you're in a bubble.
I love it. I love it. Those are great. That's great stuff. I wonder, it made me think about like someone at one point I heard owning an NBA franchise to like, or owning a professional sports team to owning like a really nice piece of art. That like, it's not necessarily about like even like what you can sell it for or how much money you're making. It's like this kind of inclusion in this really exclusive club and having something that's really hard to get, something that a zillionaire would be interested in. I don't, this new Chisholm guy, I don't know, what is $200 million to him. I have no idea, but apparently it was worth it for him to get the Celtics.
Yeah. Well, and also I know that all the talk has been, the old guy wanted to get his affairs in order because he's 90 now, right? Okay, fair enough. Makes sense. Maybe he's got some inside information on tax stuff with inheritance or wills or where this stuff is going. But got to believe that if he was worried about his affairs at 90, he probably would have been worried about his affairs at 89 and probably would have been afraid of them at 88 and probably would have been afraid at 87. I haven't heard of any massive health change this guy has. And, usually smart, savvy business people like this are planning ahead of time. I don't think he's woke up one day and was like, oh crap, I'm 90. I better get my affairs in order.
I'm old.
Yeah.
Totally.
We should do something. So, totally. Does he also have a sense that there's a bubble? I mean, the Celtics have a bubble coming, right? With all the player salaries that they're committed to. So they got their own little bubble problem bubbling up. And he also maybe, like Cuban, has a sense that something's going on here, then I better get out while I can.
Well, that's exactly what I was just thinking, like all the talk about the season being way too long. Tatum just got hurt. He stepped on someone's foot. So it wasn't like it was necessarily like a wear down injury, but the season's too long. It's really hard I was thinking about the best 5 players in the league, right? Which in some order would be like Jokic, Embiid when he's right, Doncic, Tatum, and SGA. And the only one of those guys that has been healthy all year is SGA. Like the rest of them have been hurt. It's a lot to ask of your body to play for that long. And the new salary cap stuff, I think, is probably good for owners. Like ultimately it's less money that they're paying players. And I wonder, there's like a piece of it like this like Saudi league, like, I don't know if it'll be in the next year or 5 years or 10 years, but there will be a competitive league that's like, look, we're going to peel off these top 10. And the more guys that are foreign, probably the less that like the culture of playing in the NBA means to them, right? Because maybe they didn't grow up immersed in it the way, like there will be a league that's going to poach like a really, really great player for a lot more money and a lot less work than they would have to do in the NBA. And I don't know if the Grossbeck family saw this coming or sees that coming in some way. And it's like, there's going to be a reckoning. Let's get out now. I love it. Peak NBA.
I mean, some kind of change is coming. Who knows what and who knows when, but I think at some point soon, there's going to be something pretty dramatic that shakes up the league that nobody expected.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah. You heard it here first. Go team, score points.
Yeah. Special consultant, Anthony Ives. I love it. Anthony, that was really great. Thank you.
My pleasure. A lot of fun for me too. I'm happy to come back anytime.
Thanks. We're so happy you came back on again. This was great.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
We did it. How good was Anthony? That was really fun. It was really fun.
He knows a lot.
Yeah, made some good points.
Yeah, I feel kind of bad for him that this is the team he picked when he was 7.
It's been a rough ride. It's so thinking about that whole process thing. I think they were probably right. I don't think they had another choice. The Sixers, there was no other way for them to get better. I don't think. And given that, just the amount of luck that you need to have. I mean, It was a real conversation. It was Marcus Fultz, whatever. I don't even know the guy's name, or Tatum. Like that was a real conversation in that draft.
Oh.
And I remember Danny Ainge, who was the GM for the Celtics, saying like we felt like we could get the one that we thought we wanted at number 3, which is why they made that trade. So they got other stuff from the Sixers plus Jason Tatum.
So they weren't really that interested in Tatum?
The Sixers?
Anybody.
No, the Celtics were. I think the
Okay.
Celtics would have taken him number 1, but somehow they knew that the Sixers didn't want him number 1.
Huh.
So because the Celtics had the first pick that year.
Yeah.
And then they learned that the Sixers were not going to take the person they wanted. So they swapped places with them to get other stuff from the Sixers, and they still got the guy they wanted. Who's your MVP this week?
I gotta go with Scoot because he's so interesting and like to be getting a job and bringing home a paycheck at 17.
I gotta give it to Anthony. That was really good.
Yeah, it was
LVP?
me for not watching a game.
Oh, too harsh. LVP, it's got to be the Sixers, right? Organization. Just
Yeah.
Pretty rough.
Yeah.
A lot of pretty bad decisions.
Yep.
Confusion?
No, I wasn't really confused this week.
Okay.
I did stop listening for a lot of you and Anthony yapping.
Oh,
it was boring.
The eyes glazed over. Confusing part. What was the expression? Time to eat?
Dinner time.
Dinner time. It was a little confusing.
Yeah.
I'll go with that. And then what'd you learn?
Well, I learned a lot. And I think what I learned is why we're at the peak NBA and what that might look like going forward. I think that was really, really interesting. What'd you learn?
I learned that Al Horford was that Oklahoma City trade. That was a great tidbit. I didn't know that.
No.
Yeah.
I thought you knew everything about the Celtics and all Celtics adjacent players.
Yeah, I'm a little embarrassed, but it's good to learn.
It's good to learn.
Yeah.
Take a stand.
Yeah, we're on the record.
On the record.
Learning is good.
Learning is good. Hey.
Did we do it?
I think we did it. Good job.
Good job.
Thank you for listening to Go Team Score Points. Today's episode was edited by Irish. We want to thank Anthony for being our guest today and Hannah for her contributions. You can reach us at goteamscorepoints@gmail.com. Next week, we'll be watching the Timberwolves play the Suns. See you then.